Hello friends, it is now December 18th, 2025, and it's been about 5 months. My last video was in July, so this is wild. It's been just really busy for me. I've busy and not busy, but like busy in a way that like I've pretty much been gone almost every weekend. It's been a very rare weekend I've been home, which I knew the fall would end up doing that. I visited my folks in New York. I had a Pelviology 2 course in Dallas. I've been doing my survival school, the Holistic Survival School. That's once a month for 4 days, where I'm kind of off the grid. And we just wrapped up that school first weekend of December. So now I'm just kind of, I don't know, basking in the idea of having a few weekends open and being around the house and not booking myself too tight. And yeah, it's been really lovely. It's been a really lovely fall. I hope you guys have all enjoyed yours. It's been crazy in many world-like states, but for the inner world, it feels good. It feels like things are slowing down a little bit, and I feel like I've sort of, for the first time really that I've been an adult, had some time to take a breath and look around and, you know, consciously make an effort on how I want to shape that next year, instead of just being like, oh, all these courses are happening and all these things I want to learn and I'll just book it. And I see that I have a pattern to want to fill my time. I love to learn stuff and keep busy. And while that is awesome, it is also hard to unwind and to slow down and, you know, kind of reflect. So yeah, I'm enjoying the time to not push myself to run ragged this season. We even had Thanksgiving for like the first time that I can remember. Just Sarah and I cooked my first turkey. It went very well. It was delicious. I made my own herbal ghee. So some clarified butter with some of my thyme and rosemary from the garden. And we also had parsley from the garden still. So yeah, the turkey was amazing. Got my skin real crispy and it was just lovely. We kept kind of the sides pretty basic. So I'm sure some people go all out, but we like, instead of like a casserole with, you know, green beans, we just did the green beans. So some potatoes, and kept it fairly traditional. I did make my own gravy with the giblets, which is super exciting for me. I've been feeling really good, getting some really good sources of iron, natural sources like liver and heart. Yeah, for me, it just seems like I need to have meat in my life and in my diet. And I've done some learning since I've seen you guys last. So I had a really big panel done called a nutritional genome, which is slightly overwhelming. Amount of documents. It's crazy amount of pages. It's one of the best tests I think I've ever done for myself. In the past, I've done micronutrient panels. Even through my office, I used to have I still do technically, but I haven't sent one in a long time. I would have a phlebotomist come in and take blood, and we'd send out these labs and check people's micronutrient panels, and they were based off of plasma sources. So it wasn't like, oh, what's floating, it wasn't based off of plasma, it was based off of leukocytes and what's actually in the cell. So what was intracellular, which gives a good, like, I believe it was like an 8 to 12 month window of time where it's like, you've been deficient in these things for like, you know, the better part of a year. Maybe you should get on top of them. So that was really helpful. And I've run 2 of those tests on myself a couple years in a row. And I had a couple of things that popped up each time I had done that test. And, you know, in my education, which I would say nutritionally is better, I don't know, it was more complete than many educations in the doctorate world. It wasn't, you know, I didn't learn about some of the things I was deficient in. So, you know, me, I'm going to do a little research and digging, and yeah, and I also overlooked things because I was so busy at that point in my life. I was running my full-time practice, and I was just in all of life and really busy. So I was like, oh, that's interesting information. I'll eat more eggs for the choline that I'm obviously deficient in, and kind of just moved on from there. Didn't really like wonder why, or dig into deeper why I was personally absent in some of these vitamins and minerals or amino acids. And so some of the things that popped up for me, and I see in a lot of people, are like low vitamin D. Well, at the time I was taking pretty high doses of oral vitamin D, D3 particularly, though I also did D2 from like reishi mushroom and things. And I always was taking a K2. So it was surprising to me, having taken some of the higher doses that I was taking, that I was still very deficient. And I've cycled these things for a while. And yeah, so there are some reasons why I've had issues with some of those fat-soluble vitamins. And there's probably many reasons, but what I've uncovered so far is that, interestingly, I need to have more fat in my diet, which, there's a lot of controversy around where the fat comes from, and perhaps that'll be a video in the future for me to share. But for me, I do try to get some animal-sourced fats. It's easier to assimilate and more bioavailable as far as like what's normal to our body. I do some rendered fats because I don't seem to have an issue with those. And I also do vegetable fats, olive oil, avocado, all the things. But I don't think I do them either regularly enough or high enough amounts, or I have a nutritional absorption issue in my gut. And I probably have some enzyme issues with conversions of D and some of those things, because I do, especially this past summer when I've been allowed to get in the sun, because I couldn't when I was on chemo, I would break out in a really terrible rash. It didn't stop me from going out there. I just wore like a lot of coverage. But I have been trying to actively get out in the sun and get that natural exposure, especially in the mornings. And and I still struggle with D. So other than when I was getting intramuscular injections, which was one of the few things that I've seen significantly shoot my plasma vitamin D levels, which was wild. And I did feel pretty amazing for quite a few months there when I was doing that. I've had an issue with some of those things. So the micronutrient panel was definitely a good insight, but it didn't give me, or I wasn't paying attention enough to like read all the signs. So fast forward, I get diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, blah, blah, blah. Moving forward, I'm done treatment. Where do I go from here? Nobody really has any suggestions. They're like, well, you're alive. Great job. Keep on living. So I have done some more research and just want to understand a little bit more about my metabolism and how my genetic background and how I function and what I can process properly myself. And so in this very lengthy test, which I would say was very comprehensive, and they give a lot of description and background, some of the big things that kind of caught my eye is that I just have a lot of issues in and around my liver, a lot of methylation issues. So if you can't methylate things properly, then you can't really metabolize them properly. And methylation is basically like it's a very important process in B vitamins. And if you are deficient in B vitamins, which are water-soluble vitamins, meaning you do need them every single day because they don't store in the body like a fat-soluble vitamin would. I had a lot more issues than I thought with B vitamins, even though I've been taking a B complex, a methylated B complex, since chiro school, since chiropractic school. So, and I mean, I had a pretty amazing shift in my body composition just by taking the Bs back then. I remember family members were, my aunts was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I've just started taking B vitamins, and turns out I can metabolize carbs better and all these things. And, there was a lot changing then, because when you're in a program like that, you do make a lot of changes because you get really fearful of all the scary things they tell you about diet and everything. So I'm sure I was changing a lot of things, but a B complex was a really big thing for me. But I've still been struggling with, specifically I've been struggling with getting my B's level, and then also having my hematocrit elevated. My hemoglobin has been quite an issue. So the creation and formation of my red blood cells have continually been an issue. Even though I take a B supplement, and you would think that would be enough, the B complex specifically. Turns out there are other forms that you need, not just methylated forms. Some people are more sensitive to the various forms of B. Let's take one, for instance. Let's talk about B9. B9 is what most people think of as folate. Folate is the safe form of B9. Many people also refer to it as folic acid, which, as far as I've learned, folic acid is the synthetic, more toxic form of B9. I suppose it can help some people. It's just not really proper formation in the body, so most people should opt for folate, a much better form. Well, I'm one of these very sensitive people that even though I was getting folate in a significant amount, I wasn't incorporating it properly, so I actually need a more specific type called folinic acid. Folinic acid is a form of B9 for more sensitive people that I guess have issues absorbing the other form. And this goes into B12 too. A lot of people take cyanocobalamin. That's a common B12, or they get cyanocobalamin shots. That's with the CY. The problem with cyanocobalamin is it's not really bioavailable. So most people should take a methocobalamin form of B12. Methocobalamin is much more absorbable. However, and I'm probably going to butcher this because I didn't look at the name right before this, there's like a hydroxycobalamin, and the hydroxycobalamin is for more sensitive people. And so now I'm one of these people that needs to take the hydroxycobalamin. So the folinic acid and the hydroxycobalamin are better absorbed. And immediately, just in the last, I guess it's been a month and a half since my labs, it's always about 6 weeks I do labs. Since I've changed this form, because I got this information and I probably switched it at the end of October, so pretty much November moving forward, I've been taking the proper B complex for myself in the proper forms. And all of a sudden, my hemoglobin has boosted significantly. So, because I've been slightly anemic for a while, even with my high amounts of liver, ingestion and all of these other amazing forms. Yeah, anyway, so it could be the bigger pivotal factor, but just something that I hadn't really been taught about. I hadn't taken or learned anything about that through my schooling. I learned certainly about specific forms, but these things are changing and they're ever changing. So more and more research has come out probably since then. And so I think it's really exciting and cool to be now privy. It's cool that I'm the sensitive kind, because now I can share this with people who have maybe also had issues. They've taken the right supplement. They've done all the right things, right? Why is it not working for me? Oh, I hear you. I'm right there with you. It's really frustrating. And actually there's like this door number 3 you were never told about. And now it's widely available and it's not that expensive, and that's wonderful. So, so I'm really excited about the little insight, or lots of insight, I've gotten on my nutritional genome. It also told me that I was having some COMT markers, which is one of the things that I've been warned. If I had a COMT marker, I should be careful with quercetin, and even with green tea, and I shouldn't take concentrated CG, EG, CG. So I shouldn't take concentrated forms of that, because when you have COMT present, EGCG, which is usually in green tea, and quercetin, which is in a lot of different vegetables, it's a plant antioxidant. It's been the only thing that's helped me with poison ivy and bee stings. I'll tell more about that, but they'll say if you take those things, then your body can hyperaccumulate xenoestrogens, which obviously is not great, because that's like synthetic fake estrogens, or estrogens that compete with your body's estrogens. So I could have clearing issues with hormones, which is a big deal. Not that my cancer was not hormone based, but these are all, hormones are like the big long-term messengers in the body. These are big contributors to why there may be some imbalance, and why some tissues in the body get overloaded, so wonderful insight. I still do take quercetin. I just don't take it on a daily, pattern. I was doing it actually pretty daily for a while there, because I would have, I was disc golfing and I would have outbreaks of poison ivy, or I got stung by a yellow jacket and I had some ridiculous reaction. My body is still in this, what they call a Th2 immune response, when it sort of over exaggerates when it has an invasion of the body, which is definitely getting in its own way. We want to aim toward a Th1 immune response, but it's challenging to regulate the immune system to do that. So even though I have taken all the mushroom supplements and, I've done the quercetin, which hits all 4 histamine receptors, which is why it's super amazing with people with mast cell activation, which is also part of this Th2 immune response. Quercetin can very much calm that response. Amazing. Like, I'm not even kidding, overnight if you take the right dose. So it's been a game changer for me. And I think I was most afraid of having COMT markers because I just didn't want to be told I couldn't take quercetin if I needed it. But I think Hancock put it in, clearer terms for me. He said, yeah, there's some evidence that COMT could be leading to, this hyperaccumulation of xenoestrogens, but it hasn't been as well researched as it could. They haven't made all the correlations or links that they may be making in the next couple years. It's still kind of on the newer spectrum of markers. He said, so he doesn't see any reason why I should cut it completely out. I just probably, if I'm going to do it, should cycle it, just like anything. So I'm not putting all of that on my body all the time, which I think is really level, sound advice. So I plan to cycle it when I need. So in the summers, if I'm going to go out disc golfing and I know there's going to be issues, I could load up ahead of time and try to get my immune system so it doesn't have that overreaction, or I'll just wait and use it reactively. I got stung. If I can get quercetin and high enough dose in pretty quick, I can really help modulate that over swelling, that over response, overreaction. So pretty awesome stuff. I also learned, the methylation issues, by the way, I didn't say it before, it's the MTHFR marker, MTHFR genetic marker. This is, a lot of people have the MTHFR, so they have methylation issues, but there are many different markers within that marker. And I'm not going to go into the details. I have all the very detailed details here, but it just sort of shows like the pathway of how some people might, let's say, hyperaccumulate homocysteine. So homocysteine is very damaging for the heart. I actually have the type of MTHFR marker that very well does like to build up homocysteine. Because of the B vitamins I don't have readily available on a cellular level at any given moment. So, that's always been a concern for me because I know I have some heart stuff I was born with and it's just part of what I've had my whole life. So I've just kind of had that as a worry. But we've been keeping up with my homocysteine. Like, that's part of my monthly testing, and that has always stayed low. My systemic inflammation, which is like the really highly sensitive one, which HSCRP, the highly sensitive CRP test, always extremely low. I mean, below 1, and that's on a scale of like 1 to 3. My erythrosedimentation rate, always low. And this is wonderful. This is great information. So there's probably a lot more markers we'll be tracking in the future, but I just feel like this has been one of the best tests I've ever done as far as giving me a platform of, more critical ways of looking at what's important for me to be getting in my diet. Because I don't know about you, but I get pretty burned out on supplements, especially since I've gone through my cancer journey, which, I've gotten really, against supplements and against shots. So I haven't been keeping up on some of the things I should be keeping up on as far as like mistletoe, which I should truly be doing twice a week. And then I should be doing Helleborus on Fridays. I was doing that for quite a long time. It did get very tricky in my travel schedule to travel with needles and to have these little glass ampules with me and to like keep everything sterile and have all this at my fingertips. It doesn't mean I couldn't have done it. But it felt more natural for me to focus on some of these other things I have control with and give myself a break, give my body a break from some of those therapies that are on the inflammatory level. They are irritating because they're trying to get your immune system to like wake up and do something. So I've scaled back a little bit from all of that. But moving into 2026, I will be getting back on schedule with Dr. T, and I'm so excited because she has an office over in East Asheville now, just opened a couple months ago. And so she's pretty accessible, really close in town in Asheville, and she's totally certified to administer mistletoe. So mistletoe for me moving forward, now that my cancer currently is at 0. I just had a recent test, and I should have another test in a few months here, or it might actually, my next test be coming up in January. Hopefully 0. So even though I'm like, you know, on a circulatory blood path, I look really good on paper, we're going to keep up with the mistletoe to keep my immune system searching for this sort of rogue cancer cell. Anything I can do to keep my immune system, you know, targeting this guy, this bad guy, right, with his hat on or whatever the immune system's doing to like trace that guy and mark him. So we're going to go back with the mistletoe, and I'll be doing mistletoe IVs. I will likely go back to injections in between, but ideally my injections are hopefully going to be when I'm through this like first few years post-cancer, and then I can do injections for myself, you know, a couple times a year, much like I'm going to be doing these IVs. So I do believe I explained the plan for the IVs, but if I hadn't, it'll be 4 to 6 weeks of high-dose mistletoe twice a week. So it's going to be a pretty large time commitment in my schedule. I believe Dr. T is working Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. So I'm going to have to, you know, kind of pick the weeks and figure out how I'm going to rotate these days and how I feel. I don't know how I'm going to feel. I haven't been on mistletoe in a while, especially an IV of mistletoe. So I don't think I'm going to have the fever induction like what we were working with in the beginning with Hancock. I'll probably just likely feel really tired because my body will be fighting or dealing with the inflammatory, you know, reaction of mistletoe. So I'm going to plan to be doing mistletoe winter and summer, which feels natural cyclically with the world. You know, right now we're going back into winter, and this is the time you see mistletoe up in the trees. It's one of these plants that just works outside of the normal circadian rhythm, and this is one of the reasons it's been prized on working with cancer cells, because cancer cells also work outside of the normal circadian rhythm. And so, yeah, there's just all these amazing environmental reasons that mistletoe seems worthy of cancer's treatment, and now in practice, of course, it's been studied quite a bit, and it's definitely showing really wonderful synergy with Western medicine as well. So, you know, not just an only cancer treatment, which it can be for some, but for me, it mixed perfectly with my low-dose chemo and just helped sort of create a beacon for that chemo to go toward. And I had a lot less residual side effects. And, you know, and very sadly, I've met quite a few people, especially later now in my journey, that have not, you know, come back. They have never returned back to work, you know, and now I'm working. I'm not working full time, but I am working, and and it's truly a choice because there's no way I think I can keep doing it full time. My job is just so physical. So, you know, and I'm a physical person. I like physical hobbies. So it's just one of those things that like it has taught me how to pace myself in different realms in my life. And then, anyway, watching nature, right, like is really the key. Everything has a cycle to it. And I think if we can really focus on that and apply that to our own health, you know, then we're better off for sure. So the interesting thing about mistletoe is I was talking with Dr. T to get up my appointment set up for January, and she informed me that they are unable to get the type of mistletoe that I require. So this is the Abnoba fraxini, and that is the European ash tree. It is the strongest mistletoe, and they chose that because of my characteristics and my type of cancer. And that is as far as anthroposophical medicine, which is very cool to learn about. So what she does have is, I think, the Helixer, or one of the other urial, like they probably have the Molly, which is the apple. She's probably got the pine or the fir. Maybe she can get some of the kind of mistletoe adjacents, like what is that one? Hawthorn. There's a bunch of different types of mistletoe for different reasons. The one I need is the Fraxini, so the ash tree. That's the one that Dr. Hancock highly suggests for me. So yeah, they can't get it right now. They won't send it to the clinics. And I don't know where this is the issue. Like, I don't understand if it's the customs or the laws right now or the way the FDA's lock things down. I have literally no clue. I am trying very, very hard to stay out of the political scene because it's just, as you probably all know, it is a lot right now. And yeah, it's just ultimately a big distraction and a stressor in my life that I can't afford to have. So I have been focusing much more on like, well, what can I do? And so Dr. T said, well, you can contact the company and order it for yourself. So most of her patients that have needed it, actually, I truly believe she said, thank you for forging the way. So I might be the first one, or forging the way. I might be the first one who has done this, but she said she's heard through the grapevine that patients have been able to order personal supplies of Abnoba Fraxini from Germany directly. So she gave me the website and I applied, I signed in, I got all my information over to them. There was a bunch of paperwork to be done. I had to have a script written from Dr. T, for a prescription for natural medicine. And it's supposed to be supportive for breast cancer treatment and side effects. And I ordered 48 ampules of 20 milligram Fraxini. So I ordered 2 of these boxes, 2 48 ampules, because my dose is 200 milligrams, and this is 20 milligrams. So I'm gonna need quite a lot. And so I got, to open it up, you can see those in here. They're super adorable. There's a couple rows of these little ampules, these little glass ampules. And basically what I'll do is, now that I have mistletoe, which this just came in last night, which was one of the big pushes. I've been wanting to make a video and check in with all of you guys. I've just kind of felt overwhelmed with the amount of things that has happened since I've talked to you all last. And so I wanted to kind of zero in on maybe some of the bigger topics. And this is one of the big topics. Is last night I received my shipment rather quickly from Germany. So I was able to buy my own mistletoe. And this is just so cool. It's just really exciting that it came in. And I didn't have any extra custom fees or anything. They said I would probably have, another 15 to 25% charge on top of it. And, mistletoe's not cheap. So these are like a couple $1,000. But it's going to hopefully hold me through the entire, 6-week treatment with Dr. T. And so, yeah, it's just like, what an amazing thing that it actually came through. It came through fast, and I get to use it. It's just kind of put in perspective 2 years ago, in 2024 in January, when I first was approaching mistletoe and committed to it as a treatment. I was doing it 2 to 3 times a week, and that means I was going down to Atlanta 2 to 3 times a week. So it was a lot of treatment, and I was doing fever induction, and they were doing intratumoral injections, and he was doing the IVs and bringing me up to the 200 milligrams. And so it was, I'm just super grateful that I got to go through what I went through when I did. And also it brings a lot of sadness to know there's people in my position who have sought out people like Dr. T and Dr. Hancock and have not been able to get perhaps the medicine that would be best suited for them. So, it's just, that's kind of a reality to let settle and to feel deeply grateful for the situation I was put in. So sending out all of that healing energy to folks that are in a really scary time right now. And very sadly, in some ways, but also fortunate, is I've had quite a few people being diagnosed with cancer in my life. So people all around are sort of coming down with the diagnosis, which has been, really sad and upsetting. And I don't know. I have a lot of feelings around it. Probably can't summate it with my poor vocabulary, but a lot of feelings around that. And so I'm feeling really grateful to be a resource to these people. I've been able to help quite a few people with some alternative solutions on how they could improve, their situation and hopefully target their cancer more appropriately. So, you guys, it's already been 30 minutes from me blabbing on. I'm not going to hold you much longer. I really need to get out of here. I've been trying to do some bouldering. A new bouldering gym opened up in Asheville. And so I've been trying to climb and feel embodied and, get strong, carrying my own body weight around. It's been really good for my mental health and for my physical health. So I've been feeling really good, you guys. Like, I have definitely pushed myself in a lot of physical ways, but I've also taken a lot of time to recharge and refuel and sort of rethink how I want to approach this next year. Every year now has a lot more gravity to it than it ever did. In a good way, in a really good way. Not in like oh no, is this my last year? Like, no, I'm thinking like, gosh, this has just given me such a good perspective on what most people take their whole life to realize, that life is not guaranteed. And so many people walk through their life just thinking tomorrow's guaranteed. And I am now not one of those people. And that feels grounding. And it also feels okay because I feel equipped with, I don't know, the confidence or the knowledge that it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. And I'm so grateful I get to enjoy this life. So I hope you guys are all doing the same. I just wanted to end with 2 of my projects from survival school, if you're even still around. I think at one point I mentioned I did a willow weaving class. So I made a pack basket, and so this is my willow basket. I wove this in survival school. I put like a cool red type of willow lined through there. Okay, and so I did this, gosh, I think it was August. And then it's been dried. I made a footer and everything. And when it was drying, I put it on a board and strapped it down so I would get a nice flat back, which I had done a pretty good job creating anyway, but I really wanted to solidify a flat back because this is a pack basket. And this past survival school, the last one, was the leather working day. And I was able to make a carriage system out of this rawhide. And I put rivets in it. I got to fold it over itself and I riveted. So hopefully it has a lot of strength. This is some tough material. And then the rawhide dried onto the basket. But before it could, I made these leather connections. And actually this is from one of the guys that was in the survival school. I wasn't quite ready to cut into the deer rawhide, or it was not a rawhide, it's a tanned hide. The deer hide I tanned, which is more like a suede. And this has a grain on, so it's much thicker and tougher leather. So I bought a couple pelts. I don't even know if you call them pelts. I bought a couple hides from this guy, and I'm using some of his, because he told me it took him 2 years before he cut into his first tanned hide. So that made me feel a lot better. So I used his oak bark tanned hide, created that attachment, and glued on these straps that we made with an inkle loom. And everybody in the school got one, which is super cool. We got all different colors. I liked this kind of bluish gray with the green because I thought it kind of had a nice play with the gray. I loved this gray willow at the bottom here. There wasn't enough to like do a lot of the basket with it, but I did work some of that in. So I just thought that was really pretty. And then I put in his lighter colored, it's just a shorter tanning, but still oak tanned hide. And I even made D-rings so it's adjustable. So the last thing, so I'm basically done. This is pretty good, but I've ordered an awl I can poke holes, and I am gonna weave probably just a synthetic sinew in like a waxed fiber to kind of sew like a little square in each of these attachments to make sure, the glue is supported because it will not last forever. And then that is my basket. So I hope you guys enjoy seeing that. That same weekend, because I am a crafting, I don't know. I don't have anything creative. I made this too. So I am a craftaholic. Okay. So with his same hides, I used the darker one for the thicker side, and then I put like a little decor, and it has like a little of the fur from the deer. It was a little corner piece, and I didn't want to trim it because I just thought the natural look was really nice. And then one of the teachers let me get one of these little walnuts. This is a cross section of a walnut, which is so cool because it kind of looks like the skull. And I have like a cute little belt pack, right? Goes on your belt. And when you see things like this, you're like, oh, that's cute, whatever. It probably took like a couple hours. No, this was a full-on 4-day excursion. I mean, we didn't have the full 4 days. There were a lot of things going on, including I punched out that rawhide carriage and did all of that. But yeah, all this stuff takes way longer than people think. I even made they call it a thong. I made like the leather string to sew everything together. So yeah, people who handcraft, like, power to you. I think the biggest takeaway from all these crafts for me is that working with your hands pulls you out of your body, and that is very important. Well, okay, I should be careful saying that because, like, you can get into bad postures crafting, and that's not good. But it pulls you out of your body in like the mind sense, so it stops you from like, oh, what did, Johnny say to me, and why did he say it in that tone, and did I respond properly, or like, was I a weirdo? And it gets you out of that like chatter all the time, and you're like, oh, what am I doing with this thing with my hand? I better focus on this. So crafting for me is here to stay. I am 100% on board with working with my hands, and I'm excited to have more craft time. I think I've grown quite a few skills, and so I can kind of approach crafts that I never would have thought. I will still get on my pottery wheel at some point. I've just been very intimidated by the kiln. And running a kiln just intimidates me. I've got my office in my basement. So firing a kiln with the toxic fumes and the heat, and I am not taking that lightly. So I have not jumped on the kiln and firing and clay. And plus I have like 50 pounds of clay, and high water clay in Asheville doesn't exist anymore. It totally went down with Helene. So, I'm a little sentimental, and I'm not ready to like create stuff with that clay and like, I don't know, mess it up. I know I'm not a perfectionist stuck mind right now. I've really moved on from that, but it definitely feels like something I need to make really special. So that stuff's gonna come along in good due time. But for now, I'm going to be reflecting and focusing on these amazing couple years I've had and the journey I've had and all the people in my life that have allowed me to be here and to be here in the way that I am. So I'm just so internally grateful for every single one of you out there that has been watching my videos and has supported me in whatever way you've supported me. I basically, loss of words, feel so grateful. Yeah, if I can write a bunch of thank you notes, I'm going to do it. It is a lot. It's like slightly overwhelming, the amount of people I probably need to thank. So thank you. I'm just going to put it out there like this, and I'll see what I can do on the back end. And I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your month. I hope you have lovely holidays, and do some crafting with your family. Spend some good quality time, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks.